Last week I talked about trigger stacking, which is just responding to a series of events. This week, as promised, I wanted to talk about one behavior after another to get to a terminal behavior, or the behavior that we're looking for, that end response. So before we start, I wanted to mention on April 29th at 6 p.m. I'm going to be doing a presentation titled A Stroll in the Dog Park, Park Etiquette and Ordinances. This is a discussion about local ordinances to Columbia, Missouri, but they should be applicable to just about any area that has a dog park. We're going to talk about expectations of the dogs, the owners. Advanced registration is required, and I'll leave a link to that in the description. I like to define chaining as when one event predicts the next event. Karen Pryor, in an article, which I'll leave a link to that article in the description also, she describes it as a behavior chain is an event in which units of behavior occur in sequence and are linked together by learned cues. And then she goes on to say the key of understanding what's going on in a behavior chain and why it creates reliable behavior is to know that a cue is also a conditioned reinforcer. So one example might be, or oversimplification, clicker training, we will pair the food reinforcer with a click. So you click, give the dog a treat. Click, treat, click, treat. We do that over and over again. And the idea is we get to the point where every time the dog hears that click, they know that they're going to get a food reward, so they have that same emotional response to the click as they do to the reinforcer or the food reward. So Duncan chasing tennis ball, and I've mentioned before that tennis balls were just his favorite thing in the whole world. The chasing was the reinforcing. He was a Brittany, he was a bird dog. I don't hunt. It's just not, has no interest for me, but I wanted to feed into that genetics of the breed, and so that was a way that we found to express that, was to chase tennis balls, that small moving thing that he could go after and bring back. So every time I threw the ball, he got to chase it, and over time the throw got the same emotional response, and then he would get to chase it. So it's just like the clicker training. Every time you click, even if you screw up, you still give the dog a reinforcer. Every time I throw the ball, he got to chase it. Okay, so we have that same emotional response to the throwing. Now there's several steps in this sequence. I want to talk about forward chaining, or just what's known as chaining first. That's just teaching all the behaviors in order. So Duncan would chase the tennis ball. So then I had to teach him to bring it back. Then I had to teach him to drop it. Then I could pick it up and throw it. And so he got to chase it again. And so that was kind of the chain to that behavior, chasing the tennis ball. What I actually ended up doing is what's called a reverse chain, or a backward chain. Because the ball chasing is cyclical, meaning I throw it, he brings it back, I throw it, it just goes in a circle or a cycle. So I could start anywhere I wanted to, pretty much. So I started with what was most reinforcing, which was the chasing. Then I did the step before that, so that's why it's called backward chaining, which was the dropping it. And that's probably where we spent the most time. He was so focused on that tennis ball that it was hard to get him to drop it. I had to teach him, if you drop it, I can throw it so you can chase it again. And so eventually that dropping got to where it was just as reinforcing as the chasing. And I can talk about how to teach a dog to drop, so you can do this in another episode. If you're interested, just leave a comment about that and I'll put that together. But anyway, so I had to teach him how to drop it. And so then before that, or the step before that, I had to teach him to come back to me with the ball in his mouth. I had to teach him to pick it up. So I would tell him to go get it, get the ball. He'd pick it up, come here. If he stopped, he dropped the ball, and I'm excited to see you. And he comes running up, and no, go get the ball, go get the ball. And so taught those steps in reverse order. So as you're backward chaining, for example, throwing the ball before that, I had to get him to drop it. So he would drop it, I would pick it up and throw it. Then when we got to the bringing it back, he would bring it back, I'd give the cue to drop, then I'd throw it. And so we're always putting all those steps together. Okay, and I'm not going to go too far into this aspect of it, but you can teach each individual behavior by itself and then put them into sequence later. Anyway, so that's reverse chaining. Ken Ramirez, and I'm going to leave a link to this article also, talks about the distinction between what he calls technical training and common training. The technical training is one cue for a series of events. So again, getting back to the throwing the ball would mean Duncan chases it, picks it up, brings it back, drops it, I pick it up and throw it again. So the throwing, it was just one cue, but we had worked on all those previous stages and put them all together. Now, a common chain, again, using our chasing the ball scenario, when I was teaching this and trying to put this all together, I would throw the ball. I didn't really have to tell him to go get it, but I would say that so that he started to learn, oh, go get it means go to the tennis ball and pick it up. So I started putting those together, but I would say go get it. He would go to it, get the ball, which meant pick it up, come, which obviously means come to me, and then give, which was a cue to drop in my hand whatever he had. So the common chain, I was giving him each step in the whole process, or I was cueing each step in the whole process. The example Ken Ramirez gives in his article is agility training, or agility competition. You get out on the course, the dog knows they're going to do one obstacle and then they have to go to another one, but they don't know which one. So the person has to be there to say, okay, do the A-frame, and now do the weave poles, and now do the tunnel. Whereas, maybe the previous time they did the teeter-totter and the jump and then the A-frame. So the common chain, there is going to be a sequence of events, but there's several cues throughout for the behavior. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what I was discussing last week with the trigger stacking with puck. This is kind of the downside of chaining. In my psychology class, one of my psychology classes, we were talking about, if you live in an apartment and you hear somebody flush the toilet, and every time they do, the cold water goes away from the shower, you start to learn that cause and effect, or that chain of events. So then when you move to a house that has better plumbing, you may hear somebody flush the toilet and you're going to have that same response, but the water may not change temperature. So with Puck in the thunderstorm, the thunder itself is what really scared him. And don't recall that I've talked a whole lot about Puck. He was severely, or his history, but he was severely abused before we got him through that fear period. And so he had trouble all his life with fear and anxiety and stress and whatnot, and this was one of the biggest issues we had. He would hear the thunder and that startled him, and then he figured out, every time right before the thunder I hear that outflow of air, for example, and we don't know exactly, of course, but we believe that's kind of what was going on. So I hear that outflow, and before that I would feel that static charge, and so he would respond to the outflow and then the static charge and then the change in pressure before that. And so we got to the point where anytime there was a change in pressure, even if there wasn't a thunderstorm coming, he would start to react and hyperventilate and do that, that stress panning I was talking about, and the pacing and the attention seeking and all these behaviors that went along with that stress, even though there wasn't a thunderstorm coming. So that's a downside of it. They can, dogs, people, whomever, they can change those events back to something. So the point being that chaining doesn't always have to be behavior necessarily, and that's why in my definition I like to keep it kind of broad and just say it's one event predicts another, whether it's me picking up the ball means I'm going to throw it and you get to chase it, you meaning Duncan, or there's a change in pressure and then the static and then the outflow and then the thunderstorm. So it can be good or bad. We just want to be aware of that. But as far as training, it's very effective because you can put those pieces together in small steps so that you make sure you have that one behavior that you're looking for. So in case you can't tell, I haven't been sleeping well lately. I'm really, really tired. I feel like I'm kind of rambling a little bit. So I'm going to leave it at that. If you have any questions about it, of course, you can always get in touch with me. Also, if you have any topics you'd like to hear me talk about, or if you'd like me to expand on any of the topics I've talked about previously, please don't hesitate. Leave a comment here, or you can email me at bishopsgatetraining@gmail.com.